What does it take to actually show up and take bold action without fear? Like really step into a new space that is unknown to you and defies all of who you have been being. What does it take to have that courage, that inner strength rise up out of you so that you can become more than you've ever been? Fear is one of those things that will stop us dead in our tracks. And there aren't a lot of tools to deal with fear other than feel the fear and do it anyway. And action does resolve a lot of fear. But I want to talk about how I have been able to really move through life for the last 30 years without fear. And how you can make this work for you and why it looks different for me. So, hi, I'm Sherry Hemstreet if you don't know me, and I'm everyone's favorite source connection and divine messenger who does transformational coaching, and I break down the really difficult things so that they can make sense, whether they're spiritual, biblical, or what it is you need to do to get to that next level and have that life that you love unapologetically, boldly, amazingly, incredibly much. So I've helped over 3,400 people to have incredible lives, to manifest their desires into reality, and to just become who they have always known they could be, and then go beyond that and exceed that. And so what I'm going to talk about today is really something that it never seems to so I can't say it never goes away, but fear is always something that a lot of people, including myself, will bump up against. Now, when I say I haven't had fear in over 30 years, I have had fear, and there are ways I would have had more fear. So give me the next 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to dive into this, give or take. Grab a cuppa, have something. I usually have a cup of iced coffee, but it's a little late for that right now. So grab a drink and let's settle in and enjoy this, shall we? If you want more content like this, you can actually go ahead and drop, oh, I forgot what the word is. We're supposed to drop something. My team will get to you. Anyway, just drop more below and we'll get it to you. All right, so fear. I have a personal experience, and this revelation just came to me the other day because I have some clients that are working through whole new levels of being. And when you are working in a whole new level of being, when you are working in identity, when you are trying to reach your goals, right? When you are trying to bring something into reality. And I'm not talking about like the esoteric bring something into reality. I'm talking about like you're starting something that you are led to do, that is burning deep inside you, that has been put on your heart, right? So that could be starting a wellness business, that could be starting supplements, that could be it could be coming out as a poet or writing a book. Whatever it is a new dimension of your identity. And in that new dimension of identity, you don't have experience with that. You don't have this long track record of knowing it, like you know the identity of all of the other pieces and parts that you are, right? So there are many pieces and parts to who we are. There are multi dimensions to all of us. So for instance, you probably have a lot of different pieces and parts that you're very, very acquainted with. You may be a mother, you may be a daughter, an aunt, a godmother, you may be a mentor, you may be a priestess, a crone, you could be a sage, right? You could be a pastor, you could be a neighbor, you could be a best friend. We have all of these identities, labels, and they make it easy for us to understand ourselves, but they also keep us from moving into that next space. So when I see someone who is ready to embark on expanding their identity, the greater portion of them that holds all of their expansion and growth and abilities and skills, there's always some hesitancy because there's a lot of things that we do. Quite often we look for permission. We want the permission to move out of the space that we've always occupied and we're comfortable in. We want to know that it's going to be okay. We want security and safety, and those all matter. Those all matter very greatly. But what happens is the fear gets us. And the fear is, what if it fails? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I heard wrong? What if I'm doing it wrong? What if now isn't the right time? What if it's not what I'm meant to do? What if nobody buys it? What if nobody cares? What if nothing happens? What if there's no traction? So many things swirling around. And I've been there. And I subscribed to this for a while. One of my coaches said to me, Sherry, I don't think you're afraid of failing. I think you're afraid of your greatness. And I would agree. For the first 10 years of my business, I would coach people and I would tell them, look, when you realize how powerful you are, it's going to knock you down. You're going to be astounded. And I've had those moments. I've had the moments of holding the power of creating something from thin air, like an actual yogi. I've held the power of seeing the face of God. I've held the power of getting answers and God saying, go ahead, you can do this. You can do more than you think. And I've held all of these, and every single time it's knocked me down. It just, it takes your breath away. It's otherworldly. It almost doesn't even have something that we can call it. And so when I think of this, I have clients right now that are facing fear. And most recently, I was facing fear. And that struck me as unusual because I haven't faced fear for a very long time. When I say I haven't faced fear for a very long time, it is a very specific type of fear I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like a low-level anxiety. I'm talking about the fear that holds you and keeps you from doing something. I'm talking about the fear that is like consuming and overwhelming. And I was like, well, why haven't I had this fear? That's like, because I was saying the other day, I was like, yeah, this is so crazy. Like, it's exciting because I haven't been afraid of anything in like 30 years. And I was like, wow, I haven't been afraid of anything in 30 years. And we're talking about like my personal things, right? Like, we're not talking about generalized fear. We're talking about fears where I have to show up in a level of self-expression, take action to carve a new path for myself in life, to be someone different than who I've been being, to follow a mission, to complete something, to create something, to step out and declare myself bigger than what I felt like or what I thought I was, right? So we're talking about something very personal. We're not talking about, common fears of like, there was a car that almost sideswiped me and like I was afraid I was going to get hit. Yeah, that's real. That's a fear, right? We're talking about these internal fears that lock us up and stop us, the emotional and the what ifs and the uncertainties. And in that, I was like, wow, I haven't felt fear like this in 30 years. I was like, am I just full of it? Is that real? Is that true? And I was like, yeah, that is true. And that's when I was like, wow, why? And I started to put it together. And you see, something you may or may not know about me, since some people do, right? Like if you've been with me for a very long time, you've heard the story over and over and over. That's okay. Just, one more time won't hurt. I started my business and my business was completely led by God. I gave it over to God, over to the divine, over to the greater divine, the creator of all. And I followed. And what happened was nothing short of miraculous. My first month, I made 12,000. I made 6 figures at 8 months. I finished my first year at 148,000. I went on to have incredible moments of $200,000 days, $75,000 in 2 weeks, working 1 hour a day. I mean, just all kinds of amazing things happening. 3,000 people coming into a course, things selling out, all kinds of things. Like, everything worked out incredibly well. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to impress upon you, like, now I'm still amazed at it. Everything worked out. The exact amount of people came in that I was told would come in, the exact things that would happen. It was very common for me to make between 120 and 160,000 in a week when I would sell something. And it was just amazing. And I was taught so many things by the divine through this. And what's interesting is I remember the first coach that I hired in the first business group I was in. And so I remember everybody would have this thing because, you had to post on social media, and everybody had this like post and puke thing. And I didn't get it. I really didn't. I was like, what are they so afraid of? Why do they want to get sick? And I didn't understand it. And it's not that I didn't understand it because I was incompassionate. I didn't understand it because what I was doing and what I was teaching my clients and students to do was to be divinely led. And that's when I realized, when I was putting all these pieces together, that's what took away the fear. You see, I was divinely led and I answered the call. And so when I received the message, when I received the invitation, as I call it, I always call it an invitation. When I received the invitation, I chose and I answered the call. I RSVP'd. And in that space, at the very beginning, the first time, I was scared. Yes, I was like, am I really going to do this? Is this really going to happen? Yes, it's really going to happen. And I did it. And I was like, wow. And as I went through this and I started to hear God more clearly, because yes, I have seen the face of God. Yes, he woke me up on my bed. We had a conversation. Yes, I asked him to go away. Yes, he sent Jesus Christ the next day. Yes, I've had many, many supernatural experiences. And yes, God has asked me to even spend an entire weekend so he could teach me something. Amazing things, right? But through all of that, the more I get to know God, I don't want to say quieter his voice becomes, but like, it's very subtle, and it's very like, it's just one and done. It's just very subtle, very one and done. And so as I grew in my trust of this experience with the divine, with being led, with my connection to source, my God, all that is, all that ever was, the creator of all that is, as I grew through my own knowledge and wisdom and relationship, most important, relationship, right? It became lighter and easier and more of just an option, a suggestion, a light nudge. It was just like, it became less potent than it was in the beginning. I remember in the beginning, it was like, you're going to do a retreat. It's going to be this day. You're going to get this house. And all of these things came through crystal clear. But the more you build yourself through these experiences with God, the more you trust and you have confidence, right? So like, the more I would trust this, the more I would have confidence, and the more I would know it would work. And that, the first time I did it, I didn't know it would work. But I stepped out in faith. I trusted. And so as I trusted, my faith grew, right? So faith is like that, like, unseen savings account, because it literally saves you. It's like that unseen savings account, right? And so I would step out in faith and I would do it, and I would reap the reward. It would be amazing. And so I would do this over and over and over, and my faith would grow. And as my faith grew, every time my fear decreased. In fact, that is why I felt no fear, because I was always following God. I was always being led. I was always in the safety zone. I was always in the safety zone of like, God's got it. God's taking care of me. He's doing his part. I'll do my part. And so for 30 years, I lived scot-free of fear because I had faith. And then something happened. It came time. It was just under 30 years ago that God told me something, told me I would be doing something, and it came time. And I thought it was done. I thought it was over, but then I remembered, God's word will not return to him void. It could return to you and I void, but won't return to him to void. And so I was like, oh, we're still doing that. Oh God, I'm gonna cry. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so in that moment I was like, oh, we're still doing that. And it had been so long since I had gotten the mission, the message. And I always knew it was there. Like, it was always in the back of my head. But then I went into overdrive and overthinking, oh my God, how do I do this? What do I do? And I forgot. I forgot that he has it all. That it's not for me. It's not for me to figure out. And I spent a good 6 weeks in fear. Like, I was struggling with this. And then it took until I remembered, wait, I have faith. Fear is an option. I can have faith. So either I'm going to have faith or I'm going to have fear. And I chose to have faith. I chose because I have made this easy for myself. I made this easy because just like, a swimmer goes to the pool and they swim. An Olympic swimmer they swim. They don't start out as an Olympic swimmer. They start out swimming across the pool. They start out with a breaststroke, right? Just as an Olympic diver goes to the Olympics, they didn't start out as an Olympic diver. They started with one dive. And they practiced and perfected that for years till it became easy because they had trust. They had practiced. They had built up their faith. They had built up their knowing. You see, my faith and my lack of fear came from knowing the relationship that I have with God and knowing what has been already done. And so this is hard if you're just starting out and you don't have all of that to lean on. You're starting at the first time, the first experience. So if that's you, welcome. Hello. You've got the invitation. It's exciting. And it's scary. And you have to decide. And you can decide this at any time. You can decide to trust rather than fear. Blind trust. You can decide that you're just going to have faith. That's it. You just decide. And then you proceed from that space. You proceed from the space of, I have nothing to fear because I have faith. I'm following God. I've been given something. You see, you weren't given something on your heart. You weren't led to do something to be led astray. It's an invitation. And that's, I think, where a lot of people fall off because it works out. And you might not understand what it looks like when it works out, but you have to keep going because you have made a commitment and you have faith. You've made the commitment that you will act in faith. You've made the commitment that you will operate in faith. You've made the commitment that this is about faith and not about fear for you. So you're going to keep moving forward. And eventually it makes sense. Eventually you get enough steps in that you have hindsight, and that makes everything so much easier to understand. So the interesting thing is that, yes, I always had clients say this, so like, Sherry, you're just so fearless. You just go out there and do everything, or you do anything, like I held my first retreat. I'd only been in business for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And I held my first retreat. I sold my first high ticket program in a year. I filled it. I did things that people said couldn't be done. And everyone was like, you're so fearless. You just do this. You're just this like force of nature. You're this like act of God. Right? And it's because I was being led. So when you're being led, There is no fear. There is nothing to fear, not even fear itself, because faith eliminates fear. Could I still go out and fail? Sure. But it doesn't matter because the final word is what God has given me. So what looks like a failure to some is never failure to me. What looks like a failure to others is nothing like that to me. It's part of the process because I have faith. I know that just because it looks like failure doesn't mean it's failure, because it is really what it ends at. And the end hasn't come yet. So the answer to everybody asking why I seem so fearless, it's because I am faith-filled. And I live a very purpose-driven, faith-led life in all ways. And so if you are struggling with fear, if fear has been part of the thing that is holding you back, if fear creeps up so often when you want to step out, start a business, be somebody, start speaking, do something no one has done before, do something you've never done before, and fear is getting in the way, faith is the antidote. Faith is the cure. If something has been given to you, it has been given to you from the divine within. And there will be steps that go with it. And there will be faith. And there will be everything you need. Everything will appear as you say yes. As you RSVP to that. And so when I remembered that in this time, when I allowed myself to get back into faith, when I got out of my human and out of my mind, back into my heart and back into my deeper relationship, because God is a relationship, not a biblical text and not a concept to be understood, right? Relationships happen in the heart and not through a text, or, we can understand and know someone better through different ways. But a relationship is a very personal experience of interaction. And so I remember I was doing all that, and I'm like, all right, God, I'm done. I'm done being afraid. He's like, oh, you're done? You're done? Do you want it to be easy now? Are you ready? Are you ready to move forward? Do you want the steps now? Are you done trying to figure it out on your own? And I was like, wow. Like, God really has jokes today. I was like, yes, I'm done trying to figure it out on my own. And I would get answers, and I still found myself going, is that going to work? And I'm like, wait a second. All of the things that have ever worked, and they've all been given to me by God. The only things that never worked in my business, in my life, are when it was my own understanding and my own doing and my own thing. And even some of those worked, but not that great. The greatest things that ever worked were backed by faith, given by God, divinely led, and just absolutely life and business changing at every level. So if you are struggling with fear, I would urge you to absolutely find your faith, get into faith. Allow yourself to just trust that this is bigger than you. And this was not this was given to you by God, and everything else is going to be given to you, because where God guides, God provides. I love that. And another thing he told me is, there's no getting it right and there's no getting it wrong. I love that too, right? And then, the most recent one is all roads lead to Rome. And I was like, do we really want to say that? And he's like, it's the gist of it. I was like, okay. All roads lead to Rome. Rome is the goal, by the way, not the actual city of Rome. And even now he's like, yeah, they're smart. They get that. And I was like, okay. Anyway, thank you for being with me. Thank you for sharing this. I'm Sherry Hemstreet of thesherryhemstreet.com. And if you've enjoyed this, please let me know. If you have questions, drop them below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And also, if you know someone that could benefit from this, that needs this, or is going through something, by all means, please share it with them. There is nothing that would change their life or mean more to me, or, be more helpful if they need this, is to share it with them. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Remember, you are loved and you are love.